Well, hello, welcome and good evening to the European 2005 report to our now here in Louisville, Kentucky. Tonight we invite the people here in St. Matthew's Church to be a studio audience to a satellite live television presentation all the way from the balcony to the screens on your right and your left. My name is Harvey Thomas, and I've had the privilege of coordinating the European side, working with Larry and Phyllis and all of the team in different parts of the world. And tonight we're going to talk about Europe, so I bring you greetings from 47 countries, 750 million people. Now tonight we're going to focus on two regions in Europe. One is Greece, and I have two couples who are coming to share with us, and I'll be speaking to them about things that are happening both in their own ministries and in their countries as a whole. So tonight I'm very glad to welcome with a very positive story in ministry, our first two guests, who are Harry and Joan Anastasiou. And Harry and Joan are now living back in Greece again. Joan was an American, but a Greek American.
Exactly.
And Harry was a Greek who went to Canada. Actually, he went to Australia first.
Right.
I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, why you went to Canada, but I have to be careful because we've got two Aussies playing with us tonight in the music, all right? However, I would like you, ladies and gentlemen, please, to give a very warm welcome to Harry and Joan Anastasiou. I suppose, Harry, it does make sense to ask the question, first of all, you went to Australia, having been brought up in a Christian orphanage in Greece.
Right.
Your father killed by the Protestants, by the communists, slip of the tongue there, by the communists.
5 months before.
5 months before you were born, in the middle 1940s, during the Second World War. Is that right? Mm-hmm. You went to Australia. Why did you then go to Canada, just as a quickie before we...
Well, I had a sister who was adopted in America in 1957. So around 1966, after being 4 years in Australia, I thought, might as well go and see her. And that's where
And you stayed?
She's an American.
But you didn't meet Joan until when?
Until 1966, at a camp, a Christian camp.
But he also has a brother in Australia.
So you're sort of multinational. Well, now, if a Greek American falls in love with an American Greek, and
Canadian Greek.
the two, I'm sorry, Canadian Greek. I do apologize. Canadian Greek to the Canadians, not to the Americans. I mean, and you two fall in love. You get married, and then suddenly, after years in Canada, you decide to go back to Greece.
Right.
Why? Harry? Joan? Harry?
Well, after being away for about 20 years from Greece, I realized that life is not just enjoyable and having everything that you want and doing everything you want. I started working with orphan kids in Canada, and one day I decided that the Lord spoke to me and put a wish in my heart and a vision to go back to Greece and work with orphan kids on totally voluntary basis.
And did you share the vision?
In the beginning, when he first told me that we were going to go back to Greece, or to go to Greece, because I was born in Greece, but I left when I was 3, so I never lived in Greece. And when he says we're going to go back to Greece, I said, where? So, yes, of course, I shared the vision.
You were an American, not a Canadian.
Yeah.
But how long did it take you, your minds, to come together that this was where God wanted you to go?
No, it didn't take Joan too long to follow. She
right away.
she's a follower on that, because she knew what I wanted to do for some time. And when the time came, she was ready. I was ready and she was ready.
Was the motivation for this that you had been brought up in a Greek orphanage, a Christian Greek orphanage?
Right. I was grateful to the Lord for all these people who helped me bypass all these problems that I had. First of all, I need to say, Harvey, that the orphanage I grew up in was built by Americans, American people like you people. And all we were supported by American people. My supporter was Mimi Quell from Philadelphia. And in fact, I went and saw her in 1967. So it was something different, you see. And when I went to Canada, after Well, we enjoyed our lives and we had good jobs. It was time for me to go back and do what I needed to do.
So you went back in 1993, which must have been a pretty big cultural change for both of you.
Not for me, for Joan.
Yes, it was.
Not for you, even though you've been 20 years out of the country.
I was 30 years out of the country.
30 years out of the country. You started this orphanage work, which you call Benjamin.
Yeah.
Why Benjamin?
Well, it reminds you of the smallest child.
Little Benjamin.
Of 12, right.
Okay.
That's
So
the only reason.
just a very
it's the
simple-
biblical name, nothing else. Mainly the biblical name. That's what we wanted to convey to the people. Something biblical, something.
So where do you find the orphans? Joan, where do you find the orphans for the orphans?
Well, we get, it's through social workers, through different organizations that are through the city. Right?
And they're usually fatherless, as distinct to both parent.
Well, let's speak about the Serbian kids.
Yeah.
They're called orphans because they lost their father in the 1999 bombings. And they're called orphans. Yeah. We support 60 Serbian orphans and 80 Greek orphans. All these orphans, most of them have a mother, most of them. Some of them don't.
But if they don't have a mother, they have a grandmother or some relative. Because I wanted to pick up on this point in all of your material about Benjamin. Benjamin is not an orphanage. It is a movement supporting orphan children.
We support them at home. And we try to make sure that the child stays in the home environment with a grandmother, with an aunt, with a mother. And the more the need, the more financial support we provide.
And it's primarily financial support, or do you give other kinds of education or anything like that?
Well, we get into a lot of
different things.
We give out clothing if they need clothing. In our house in the basement, we have clothing. So when anybody needs anything, they come to the house and we give them clothes as well.
Let me...
you want an example?
Yeah.
There's a family of a Muslim family we support. They live about 60 miles from Katerini. They lost their father about 2 years back. The smallest was 3 months old. The oldest was about 18 months old. The 4 older ones never went to school. So we took the 3 little ones, 8, 9, and 11 and a half, and we put them in the first grade. Nearly every week we have to be there.
It's the first time they went to school.
They need something.
First time they've ever been to school.
Yeah.
How do their families, friends, whatever, such as they do have, how do they feel about having their children educated in a Christian environment?
Well, they go to their own schools. They don't come to
So you're supporting the Muslim children to grow up in their own community.
That's right.
And by thus showing the Christian witness in doing that.
Right.
Let me, in the next just a couple of minutes that we have left, let me ask you a little bit broader questions on Greece. You've got the work that is going there. There are plenty more orphans happening more and more as violence takes place particularly. But where do you see the future of this ministry going? What is because Greece, of course, has Orthodox and other Christian denominations, has all sorts of reconciliation, and yet you're serving even Muslim children, any children, in the spirit of an ambassador for Christ. Where do you see your ministry going in the future?
At this time, we don't know where it's going to lead. One thing we know that we support, it doesn't matter what they are. They're Muslim, they're Orthodox, they're evangelical, we'll support them. In fact, there's an Orthodox priest who's a member of Benjamin, and that's very unusual for Greece. Very, very unusual. And in fact, this man is telling everybody, here is an organization that will help all the kids, regardless what they are, but he says one thing. Harry does not ask them to become evangelical before Benjamin supports them.
So you're letting the witness itself
That's right.
be the service that you give. I must thank you very much, both of you, for being with us. We could spend hours with you and other guests this afternoon or this evening talking